All right, hi guys. So what I had you guys do on yesterday was to use Desmos to graph lines and determine what the effect was on the graph. So today we're going to kind of summarize, hopefully, the conclusions you were able to come up with on yesterday. So I had you start off by graphing the function 2x, and then we added a value to that, and you should have gotten a graph that looks something like this. And so we wanted to know what was the effect of adding these values. So we added 2, 5, and 8. So what I noticed is that by doing that, it causes the values of the y-intercept to change. So you can see that the blue line is my original line. So what happens when we add 2, 5, and then 8? And so it looks like in order for us to make this transformation, each time we add it, it's going to shift the graph up, right? So the transformation that is happening here is that if we take any number and we add it to the function, it's going to cause that graph to shift up C units. Meaning if I add 2, it's going to go up 2. If I add 5, it's going to go up 5, etc. Next, we took that same function, but instead of adding those values, we subtracted them. And you can see that the opposite happened here. Then now my y-intercepts are down at the bottom. So this blue line, it looks like it was translated down in order to get those new lines. So we subtract 2, we got this green line, and then so forth. So we can summarize by saying that if we take a function and we subtract a value from it, it is going to shift the graph down that amount of units. In part 3, we started off with the same function and we added again, but this time we moved the addition to inside the parentheses. And we can see here that it's not affecting my y values the same. This time it's affecting my x values. So we added 2, 5, and 8. And so it looks like in order for that to happen, it shifted the graph to the left. Right, so when we add values inside the parentheses, so adding any value, it's going to shift the graph left that amount of units. So we did plus 2, and you can see the green line, the line is shifted 2 units to the left. We add 5, it was shifted 5 units to the left. And then the same thing occurred here, but we are subtracting, and so when we subtract it, it appears that the graph is shifted to the right. So the opposite is that if we subtract inside of the parentheses, then the graph is going to be shifted to the right that amount of units. Then in the next parts, we went from adding and subtracting to multiplying. And so here we wanted to multiply the function by numbers. So we multiplied it by 2, 4, and 7, and you can see the transformation. It doesn't look like the graph is moving up or down or side to side because you can see that it stays here in the center at the origin, but you can see that the line is shifting some sort of a way. So what's happening is the line appears to be becoming more and more vertical or moving more upward. And so what is causing that to happen is that when we multiply, it is causing our slope to change. And so if we multiply by numbers that are greater than 1, these lines become more steep, which means they become more vertical. They have more steepness. So multiplying by a value that is greater than 1 is going to cause your line to be more steep. And so the opposite of that is when we multiply by fractions, which means that we're going to make our slope smaller, it made the line become more flat. So the line is becoming less steep. So again, we are changing the slope. The slope this time is decreasing. And so 0 to 1 just means that it's a fraction. So anytime we are multiplying by a fraction, it makes our slope less steep, and the line becomes more flat. And then the last two, we multiply by a negative. So the most obvious change you can see is that multiplying by a negative, it's going to change the direction. But what is happening here is that this negative f of x means that we are changing our y values. So these positive values are coming down here and they are becoming negative. And so in order to do that, I have to cross this x-axis. So if I start off with a positive y and I change it to a negative y, I'm going to cross the x-axis, which means that this graph is reflecting across the x-axis. And then the same here. We are changing the x values this time, so in order to do that, we have to go across the y-axis in order to do that. So this is a reflection across the y-axis.